Elementary level. Lesson 1. Places to live.
Part 1.
Monster cities. Are big cities wonderful places? Are they terrible? There are different ideas about this. William H. White writes books about cities. He is happy in a crowded city. He loves busy streets with many stores and many people. He likes the life in city parks and restaurants. Many people don't like big cities. They see the large population of cities and they are afraid. Many cities are growing very fast. They are monster cities. A monster is a big, terrible thing. In some countries, there are no jobs in small towns. People go to cities to work. For example, 300,000 people go to Sao Paulo, Brazil, every year. In China, about 183,000 people move to Beijing from the countryside every year. Sao Paulo and Beijing are both megacities. A megacity is a very, very big city. It includes the main city and the cities and towns around it. Mexico City is a megacity. It has a population of about 8,600,000 in the city itself, but there are more than 21 million people in the megacity. Tokyo is another megacity, with over 8,200,000 people in Tokyo, but over 31 million in Tokyo and the cities around it. London is another megacity. There are about 7,400,000 people in London, and about 18,400,000 in London and the surrounding towns and cities. There are problems in all cities. There are big or mega problems in a megacity. In many U.S. cities, there are many people with no jobs and no homes. The air is dirty. There are too many cars. A terrible problem is crime. Many people are afraid of crime. People want to feel safe. Population density is the number of people in 1 square mile, 2.59 square kilometers. Population density is a big problem in many cities. In Miami, Florida, the density is only 7,748. In Bangkok, Thailand, there are 58,397 people per square mile. Is this crowded? Yes, but other cities are more crowded. Do you think William H. White likes Hong Kong? The population density there is 247,501.
Part 2.
My neighborhood. My name is Elena Sanchez. I'm from Mexico, but now I live in California. I'm a student here in English language classes at a small college. I live in an apartment building. It's on the corner of Olive Street and Sycamore Avenue. My address is 2201 Olive Street. There's a big olive tree in front of the building. There's a park across the street. There are a lot of oak trees in the park. The trees are beautiful in the summer. A lot of my neighbors are from different countries. The people next to me are from Indonesia. The family across from the Indonesian family is from Colombia. The stores in this neighborhood are always busy. There's a Korean drugstore and an Armenian flower shop. A Chinese church is next to the flower shop. There are 3 restaurants on Olive Street, 1 Mexican, 1 Japanese, and 1 Moroccan Italian American. I like my neighborhood, but I ask myself one question. Where are the Americans?
Lesson 2. Shopping.
Part 1.
Internet shopping. 25 years ago, very few people used the Internet. Only scientists and people in the government knew about the Internet and how to use it. This is changing very fast. Now almost everyone knows about the Internet, and many people are online, on the Internet, every day. When people think about the Internet, they often think about information. But now, more and more, when people think about the Internet, they think about shopping. Amazon.com was one of the first companies to try to sell products on the Internet. Jeff Bezos started the company. One day he made a prediction about the future. He saw that the World Wide Web was growing 2,000% a year. He predicted that it was going to continue to grow, and he thought that shopping was going to move to the Internet. People were going to shop online. He quit his good job and drove across the country to Seattle, Washington. There, he started an online bookstore called Amazon.com. Bezos had very little money. The company began in a garage, a building for a car, and at first there were very few customers, people who buy things. At the Amazon.com site, people can search for a book about a subject, find many different books about that subject, read what other people think about the books, order them by credit card, and get them in the mail in 2 days. This kind of bookstore was a new idea, but the business grew. In a few years, Amazon.com had 10 million customers and sold 18 million different items in categories including books, CDs, toys, electronics, videos, DVDs, home improvement products, things that you use to fix up a house, software, and video games. Today, at a virtual shopping mall, a group of online stores, you can buy anything from gourmet food, special, usually expensive food, to vacations. 15 years ago, many people said, "Online shopping is crazy. Nobody can make money in an online company." They were wrong. Today, Jeff Bezos is a billionaire. More and more people are shopping online, and online companies are making a profit. It is a huge business. But some people predict online business isn't going to grow anymore. They say customers are afraid of online crime and they will stop shopping on the Internet. Are these people right? Nobody knows, but we'll soon find out.
Part 2.
predicting the future of shopping. There are different ideas about shopping in the future. Some people say everybody is going to shop online from home. There won't be any more real stores or shopping malls. But other people have a different picture of the future. They say, there will still be shopping malls. In the future, many people will work at home alone on their computers. They'll want to go out to stores for their shopping. They'll want to socialize, be with other people. Maybe they're right. But the stores of the future will probably be different from stores today. Shopping in stores will be easy. First, people won't need to carry many bags from store to store. In stores, they will only choose products. They won't carry them home. The stores will deliver most of their purchases, such as clothes and books, to their houses. Second, people won't need to carry money or credit cards with them. An eye scan will identify their eyes and put their purchase on their credit card. Shopping malls will probably also be different from today. They won't only have big department stores and many small stores. Malls will still be places for shopping and for entertainment, such as movies. But in malls of the future, busy people will also do other things. They will go to the doctor, the dentist, and the post office. They will go to the gym, too. Everybody agrees about one thing. Shopping will be different in the future.
Lesson 3. Family.
Part 1.
Changing families. Families in almost every country are changing. This is true in rich countries and poor ones. It is true in Africa, the Americas, Asia, and Europe. All over the world, families are getting smaller. In North Africa in the past, many people lived in extended families. 50 to 100 people lived together in a group of houses. These were all family members, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, children, and grandchildren. But now this traditional family is breaking into smaller groups. The traditional family in Mexico was also big. One generation ago, the average Mexican woman had 7 children. Today, she has an average of only 2.5 children. Now, without so many children, families don't need to spend so much money on basics, such as food, clothing, and housing. The traditional Japanese family was also an extended family: a son, his parents, his wife, his children, and his unmarried brothers and sisters. 3 generations lived together. But this tradition is changing. Now most families are nuclear families, parents and their children. And most Japanese parents have only 1 or 2 children. These families have new problems. Many men and women spend a lot of time at work. They don't spend much time together as a family. This can be very difficult. Some young women don't want this kind of marriage. They get a job and live with their parents. They say, "I don't need to get married." In Europe, in traditional families, the woman stayed home with the children and the man had a job. But families all over Europe are changing. The number of divorces is going up. In Germany, 41% of all marriages end in divorce. In Finland, that number is 56%. Many Europeans don't get a divorce, but they don't get married either. In much of Europe, many people live alone. In France, more than 26% of women between age 30 and 34 live alone, and more than 27% of men of the same age live alone. The number of single-parent families is going up too. In Denmark, 60% of all firstborn children have parents who are not married. The world is changing, and families are changing too. There are many new types of families, but most seem to be getting smaller.
Part 2.
Our family reunion. These are pictures of my family. I took the pictures last summer. We don't live together. We live in different cities, different states, and 2 countries. But we often talk to each other on the phone or send email. Every summer, all the relatives come together for a week. This is our family reunion, and it's so much fun. There are 2 branches in our family, one branch from Mexico and one from the United States. People come to the reunion from California, Arizona, New York, and Florida. Other people come from Mexico City and Puerto Vallarta. We alternate the reunion place, one year in Mexico and the next year in Arizona. My great-grandparents lived in Puerto Vallarta, and my grandparents now live in Arizona. At the reunion, we have a picnic one day. We play baseball, swim, and eat a lot. We play volleyball too. The women and girls are on one team, and the men and boys are on the other. One day, some of us go shopping. One night, we always have a big barbecue. We sit around a fire, tell stories, and eat a lot. Some of my aunts and uncles sing and play music. On the last night, we have a dinner dance at a nice hotel. We listen to music, dance, and eat a lot. Our family really likes to eat. We don't only eat. We visit with each other all week. We talk about problems. We plan weddings and cry about divorces. Sometimes we argue. All bring their new babies, new wives and husbands, and new girlfriends and boyfriends. It's good to have a big family. But at the end of the week, I'm always very tired. I'm happy to be alone.
Lesson 4. Personal Health.
Part 1.
Health news for body and mind. Nobody wants to be sick. Everyone wants to be healthy, and most people want to have a long life too. But a healthy body is not enough. We all want both physical and mental health. What can we do to stay well? Most of us know some things to do. It's a good idea to exercise, for example, in a gym, eat fruit, vegetables, and fish, and drink lots of water. We also know things not to do. It's a bad idea to eat a lot of junk food, such as chips, ice cream, candy, donuts, and other foods with sugar or fat. It's a bad idea to be a couch potato, a person who watches a lot of TV and doesn't exercise. It's a terrible idea to smoke. But scientists now have new information about other ways to stay healthy. Some of it is surprising. Drink cocoa. Several beverages are good for the health. Orange juice has vitamin C. Milk has calcium. Black tea and green tea are good for health too. They have antioxidants. These fight diseases such as cancer and heart disease. Most people know this. But most people don't know about cocoa, hot chocolate. They enjoy the sweet chocolatey beverage, but they don't know about its antioxidants. It has more antioxidants than tea. Relax. Too much stress, which is worry about problems in life, is not good for physical health. For example, it makes your blood pressure go up. Now we know more. Some stress is chronic, which means that it lasts a long time, for many months or years. Chronic stress can make people old. As people get older, they get gray hair and wrinkles in their skin, and their eyesight and hearing become worse. This is normal, but chronic stress makes people age, grow old, faster. A scientist at the University of California, San Francisco, studies stress. She can now identify how stress makes people age. It can damage, hurt, the body's DNA. The lesson from this is clear. We need to learn to relax. Sleep. One easy and cheap way to help both your physical and mental health is just to sleep 8 hours or more every night. But more and more people are not sleeping enough. According to the World Health Organization, over half the people in the world may be sleep deprived, which means they don't get enough sleep. Sleep-deprived people often have medical problems, such as high blood pressure, diabetes, a problem with sugar in the blood, and heart problems. It is also more difficult for them to make decisions. Clearly, we need to find time to get more sleep. But there is another reason. A new study from Germany found that sleep makes people smarter. The study shows that the brain continues to work during sleep and helps the sleeper to work on problems. You didn't do your homework last night? Maybe you can tell your teacher that you were working hard in your sleep. Learn languages. How many languages do you speak? There might be good news for you. A study from a university in Canada found something interesting. Bilingual people, who speak 2 languages very well, do better on tests than people who speak only 1 language. It seems to be mental exercise to hold 2 languages in your brain. Ellen Bialystok of York University says it's like going to a brain gym. Conclusion. To have good physical and mental health, we need to eat right, relax, sleep enough, and exercise, both the body and the brain. There is a lot of new information about health. Some of it is surprising. We need to know about it.
Lesson 5. Women and Men.
Part 1.
Men's talk and women's talk in the United States. Marriage is often not easy. Love is often not easy. Sometimes friendship between a man and a woman is not easy. Maybe a man and a woman love or like each other, but they argue. They get angry. Later they apologize, but it happens again and again. What's the problem? Are men and women really very different? Deborah Tannen says yes. Men and women are very different. Tannen teaches at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. She writes books about the ways people talk. She believes that men and women talk and think in different ways. She tells about some differences in her book, You Just Don't Understand. It begins in childhood. The differences, Tannen says, begin when men and women are children. Very young boys and girls are similar to each other. In other words, they like many of the same things and play in the same ways. They aren't very different. But then there is a change. When children in the United States are 5 or 6 years old, boys usually play in large groups. One boy gives orders. For example, he says, "Take this, go over there, and be on this team." He is the leader. Boys also brag. In other words, they say good things about themselves. They do this to have a high position, place, in the hierarchy. In other words, the system from low to high. Position in the group is important to boys. Girls in the United States usually play in small groups or with one other girl. A girl's best friend, her very, very good friend, is important to her. Girls don't often give orders. They give suggestions. For example, they say, "Let's go over there. Maybe we should do this." And, "Do you want to play with that?" Girls don't usually have a leader, and they don't often brag. Everyone has an equal position. Boys and girls play in different ways, too. Much of the time, little girls sit together and talk. They have conversations. Little boys are usually active. They do things. When children grow up, nothing really changes. Who talks more and why? Many people believe that women talk more than men do. According to Deborah Tannen, this isn't exactly true. She says women talk more than men only in private situations, at home, with family, or with a few friends. In public situations, in other words, in a big group or at work, men talk more. Tannen says that men and women often talk for different reasons. Men talk to give or get information. They also talk to get or keep a high position among other men. But for women, people and feelings are important. Women often talk to socialize and show interest and love. They also talk to keep their close relationships with friends and family. Conclusion. Although a man and a woman might speak the same language, sometimes they don't understand each other. Men's talk and women's talk are almost two different languages. But maybe men and women can learn to understand each other if they understand the differences in speech.
Part 2. He said, she said. A U.S. couple.
Well, doctor, I'm beginning to worry about my marriage. My wife and I just don't understand each other. She doesn't like to do things with me. She won't play tennis or baseball with me. She doesn't like to fix the car with me. She doesn't work on the house with me, paint the house or fix the roof. She doesn't listen when I talk about interesting things, sports, money, or world politics. Sometimes she gets angry with me about unimportant things. And she talks and talks and talks about uninteresting things. What's wrong with her?
Well, doctor, I'm beginning to worry about my marriage. My husband and I just don't understand each other. We both work full-time, but I do all the work at home. Fix dinner, wash clothes, and clean the house. His life is easy. He has only one job. I have two. Sometimes I feel so lonely. When he's home, he reads the newspaper or watches TV. He doesn't talk with me. He talks at me. He only talks with his friends. He doesn't listen if I tell him about my day. He isn't interested in our friends and relatives. Sometimes he gives me orders. Sometimes he tells me about sports or politics, but I don't like it because I feel like a student in school. What's wrong with him?
Lesson 6. Sleep and Dream.
Part 1.
The purpose of sleep and dreams. Many people wonder, why do we sleep? Why do we dream? They ask themselves the purpose or reason. There are many theories or opinions about this, but scientists don't know if these ideas are correct. Theories of sleep. One theory of sleep says that during the day, we use many important chemicals in our bodies and brains. We need sleep to make new chemicals and repair or fix our bodies. This theory is called the repair theory. One piece of evidence for this theory is that our bodies produce more of a growth hormone, a chemical that helps us grow while we sleep. Another theory is that the purpose of sleep is to dream. Dreaming occurs or happens only during one stage or period of sleep. REM, rapid eye movement sleep. REM sleep occurs about every 90 minutes and lasts for about 20 minutes. Some scientists believe that REM sleep helps us to remember things, but other scientists don't agree. Dream theories. Whatever the reason for sleep, everyone sleeps, and everyone dreams every night. Many times we don't remember our dreams, but we still dream. Like sleep, no one knows exactly why we dream or what dreams mean. There have been many theories about dreams throughout history. Many cultures believe that dreams can predict the future, that they can tell us what is going to happen to us. However, some people believe that dreams are only a form of entertainment. Psychologists, such as Sigmund Freud, say that dreams are not predictions of the future. Psychologists have strong beliefs about dreams. However, these scientists don't always agree with each other. There are several different theories about the purpose of dreaming. Freud, who wrote around the year 1900, said that dreams can tell us about our emotions, feelings, and desires or wishes. Freud believed that our dreams are full of symbols. In other words, things in our dreams mean other things. For example, a road in a dream isn't really a road. It might be a symbol of the dreamer's life. Freud thought that dreams are about things from our past, from our childhood. Other psychologists say no. They believe that dreams are about the present, about our ideas, desires, and problems now. Other psychologists say that dreams have no meaning at all. New evidence. We still don't know why we dream. However, there is interesting new evidence from research or studies about the brain. When we are awake, many parts of our brain are active. For example, the parts for emotions, vision, the ability to see, logic, the ability to think and understand, and others. However, when we are asleep and dreaming, the part of the brain for logic is not active. Maybe this new evidence answers one common question. Why do dreams seem so crazy?
Part 2. A Dream Narrative.
This is the dream of a 40-year-old businessman. He is married and has 2 children. He goes to a psychologist because he feels anxious a lot. The psychologist told him to write down his dreams. This is his dream from June 7th.
Dream, June 7th. In my dream, I was in a large city. It was very big and very dark. The city seemed like New York, but it didn't look like the real New York. I was in a friend's apartment. It was comfortable. After a few minutes, I left and went out on the street alone. I walked for a while. Then I realized I was lost. I couldn't find my friend's apartment again. I started to feel uncomfortable. I tried to return to the apartment, but all of the streets looked unfamiliar and completely different, and I didn't know my friend's address. I began to feel anxious. I kept walking. I wanted to find something familiar. It was getting late. I decided to go home. I knew my home was outside the city. I saw buses on the street, but I didn't know which one to take. I couldn't find a way to leave the city. There was a way to get home, but I didn't know it. I asked for directions. The people answered, but they didn't make any sense. All their directions were very complicated, and I couldn't understand them. Suddenly, I was on a boat. The boat was traveling across a very dangerous river. It was dark. The river was very dirty. there was garbage in it. I couldn't see the other side of the river, and I was afraid. I began to think I'll never get home. I tried to ask for help, but no one listened to me. Then I woke up.
Lesson 7. Work and Jobs.
Part 1.
Volunteering. Some people go to work each day and then come home. They spend time with their family and friends. Maybe they watch TV or go to a movie. Sometimes they exercise or read. This is their life. But for other people, this isn't enough. They look around their neighborhoods and see people with terrible hardships, sickness, loneliness, and homelessness. Other people see problems with the environment. Many people want to help. They volunteer. They give some of their time to help others. Volunteers help in many ways. Some visit sick and lonely people. Some give their friendship to children without parents. Some build houses for homeless people. Others sit and hold babies with AIDS. Andy Lipkiss was at summer camp when he planted his first tree. He began to think about the environment. In many countries, people were cutting down trees. Andy Lipkiss worried about this. In 1974, he started a group, Tree People, to plant trees: pine, elm, cypress, and eucalyptus. They also began to plant fruit trees in poor neighborhoods because fresh fruit is often too expensive for poor people. Today, there are thousands of members of Tree People, and more join every day. They plant millions of trees everywhere to help the environment and people. Ruth Brinker wasn't planning to change the world. Then, a young friend became sick. He had AIDS. Soon he was very sick, and he couldn't take care of himself. Brinker and other friends began to help him. In 1985, Brinker started Project Open Hand. This group cooks meals and takes them to people with AIDS. Soon, Project Open Hand volunteers were cooking many meals every day and delivering them to people who couldn't leave home. Today, volunteers prepare 2,000 meals daily. Ruth Brinker didn't plan to change the world, but she is making a change in people's lives. Only 3 volunteers began the Marine Mammal Center in Northern California in 1975. Today, there are 800 volunteers. They work with mammals. Mammals are animals that feed on their mother's milk when young. The volunteers help sick ocean mammals, seals, sea lions, and sea otters. The sick animals become well and strong. Motherless baby animals grow big and healthy. For many weeks, or sometimes months, volunteers help to feed and take care of these animals. They also work in an educational program that teaches people about these animals. The volunteers don't get any pay for their hard work. Their pay is the good feeling on the day when they can release a healthy animal, take it to its home, the ocean, and let it go free. 30 or 40 years ago, most volunteers were housewives. They volunteered time while their husbands were working. Today, Both men and women volunteer, and teenagers and children too. There are volunteers from all social classes, all neighborhoods, and all ages. Most aren't rich or famous. They enjoy their volunteer work. People need them. Today, the world needs volunteers more than ever before. Perhaps a young Zulu boy from South Africa, Nkosi Johnson, said it best. Before he died of AIDS at the age of 12, he made a speech that is now famous. In this speech, he said, "Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are."
Part 2.
My special year. My name is Pablo. I think I'm a lucky guy. I have a good family, and we live in a nice neighborhood in a really special place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. People travel here from many countries for their vacations. We have beautiful beaches, hotels, restaurants, shopping, and sports. However, in my beautiful hometown, there are also very poor neighborhoods. These areas are crowded and have a lot of crime. Life is terrible for many of the children in these areas. Some don't really have a childhood because they're homeless and live on the streets. They don't have families or education. They don't have enough food. Most of them have chronic stress. Many use drugs or have diseases or mental problems. Last year, I came back to Puerto Vallarta from my university in Mexico City. I spent 1 year as a volunteer with an organization called Outreach International. They have several programs. I volunteered for one program to help street children. It was the best and most difficult year of my life. I learned a lot that year. I worked in a home for street children, all boys at this one. It's in an old school that nobody uses now. At this home, the boys have a place to sleep and 3 meals daily, but it's not a school. They go to a neighborhood school. The home keeps the boys off the streets. It shows them another way of life. As a volunteer, I helped to prepare meals. I taught games such as basketball and football and art. I helped the kids with their homework. These kids can be fun. They have a lot of energy, but they're also really tough. Their hardships on the streets make them strong, and not always sweet little children. At this boys' home, I met 2 other volunteers, Brian from Canada and Greg from Australia. In many ways, we were very similar. We were the same age, came from good homes, had a good education, and liked to travel. They were both college students, like me. We became friends. I helped them with Spanish, and they helped me with English. They came to meet my family, and we had fun together. Now we email each other. But more than anything, I will always remember the children. I hope their lives can be better in the future. The contrast between their lives and my life is big. I hope they can have a good life, like I do.
Lesson 8. Eating and Food.
Part 1.
New foods, new diets. Diet of the Past. On March 26, 1662, Samuel Pepys and 4 friends had lunch at his home in London, England. They ate beef, cheese, 2 kinds of fish, and 6 chickens. Today, we might wonder, what? No fruits? No vegetables? More than 300 years ago, people in Europe ate differently from today. They looked different too. In famous paintings by Titian, Rubens, and other artists, people weren't thin, they were overweight. But people 300 years ago thought, how attractive, not how ugly. Today's diet. Today, people are learning more about health. Many people are changing their ways of eating. They're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. Many of the vegetables are raw. They aren't cooked because cooking takes away some vitamins, such as vitamins A, B, and C. People are eating less sugar. They're eating low-fat foods. They're not eating much red meat. They're drinking less cola and coffee. Trying to be thin. People these days want to be slim, not fat. Sometimes people in North America go a little crazy to lose pounds. Thousands of them join gyms and diet groups, go to special diet doctors, or spend a lot of money at diet centers. Each year, Americans spend more than $46 billion on diets and diet products. More people are overweight. However, there is an irony, a surprising opposite result, to all this dieting. While many people are becoming thin, other people are becoming overweight. More people are overweight than in the past. In many countries, there is a serious problem with obesity. In other words, a condition of being very overweight. There are 2 main reasons. First, these days many people often go to fast food restaurants. They didn't in the past. At these restaurants, many of the foods, such as fried potatoes and meat, are high in fat. Some of the dairy products, such as cheese, are high in fat, and others, such as ice cream, are high in fat and sugar. This seems similar to Samuel Pepys's party, doesn't it? Second, dieting doesn't often work. Sometimes people lose weight fast, but they usually gain it back again. Almost 95% of all people gain back weight after a diet. One problem with obesity is easy to see. Overweight people have more sicknesses, such as heart disease and diabetes. Sometimes people go crazy over food. Sometimes they eat very little because they want to be slim. Other times, they eat lots of bad foods because these foods taste good. When will people learn? Too much food, too little food, and the wrong foods are all bad ideas.
Part 2.
Eating bugs. Different cultures enjoy different foods. Sometimes a food that one culture thinks is delicious might seem disgusting to another. In much of the world, people eat beef, but the idea of meat from a cow disgusts some Hindus in India. People in France sometimes eat horse meat or frogs, and this disgusts some Americans. People in Western countries eat cheese, and many Asians think that this is disgusting. And then there are insects. Many people wonder, how can people eat bugs? Children in the U.S. make horrible faces and say, "Ooh, yucky." However, insects are an important part of the diets in many countries. In different places, people eat over 1,000 types of insects, and ate them in the past, too. For example, people in ancient Greece and Rome ate insects. American Indians ate grasshoppers, crickets, and caterpillars. Today, in parts of Africa, people eat termites, insects that eat wood, and caterpillars as snacks. In Japan, some people eat grasshoppers with soy sauce. In small villages and in some restaurants in Thailand, people enjoy crickets and grasshoppers. In some Mexican restaurants, people pay $25 for a plate of butterfly larvae. In the United States, some restaurants now offer insects as a gourmet food. In China, people spend $100 million each year on ants. There are different ways to prepare bugs as food. One way is to boil them in very hot water. In Colombia, some people spread them on bread. In the Philippines, people fry them in butter with vegetables. In Mexico, people fry them in oil or marinate them in lemon juice, salt, and chili. In some parts of Africa, some people bake or fry them. In other areas, they eat them raw. However, entomologists, scientists who study insects, say that it's important to cook insects, not eat them raw. In the United States, a company called Hot Licks now sells candy with insects in it. Julieta Ramos Elerdui, a researcher at a university in Mexico City, says that there are many good reasons to eat bugs. First, insects are a cheap food, except on a plate in an expensive restaurant, and they taste good. Some insects taste like nuts, bacon, mint, or cinnamon. Second, bugs are good for our health. For example, they often have more protein than beef or fish. Third, they can bring money to poor people who find them in the forest and sell them. In parts of Africa, there are 7 pounds of insects on just one tree. This brings a good profit for very little work. Finally, eating insects can help to save the environment. In many countries, people cut down trees. However, they will not do this if the trees have insects to eat or sell. People worldwide are now eating foods from other countries. People in the West now enjoy Japanese sushi, a small roll of cooked white rice served with a garnish of raw fish, vegetables, or egg. People everywhere eat Italian pizza and American hamburgers. Maybe someday, in a fast food restaurant in any country, a customer will say, "Give me a hamburger and an order of caterpillars, please." In the future, insects might be as familiar to us as rice, bread, or beans.
Lesson 9. Places to visit.
Part 1.
Adventure vacations. People like different kinds of vacations. Some go camping. They swim, fish, cook over a fire, and sleep outside. Others like to stay at a hotel in an exciting city. They go shopping all day and go dancing all night. Or maybe they go sightseeing to places such as Disneyland in the United States, the Taj Mahal in India, or the Louvre in France. A different kind of vacation. Some people are bored with sightseeing trips. They don't want to be tourists. They prefer an adventure, a surprising and exciting trip. They want to learn something and maybe help people too. How can they do this? Some travel companies and environmental groups are planning special adventures. Sometimes these trips are difficult, but they're a lot of fun. One organization, Earthwatch, sends small groups of volunteers to different parts of the world. Some volunteers spend 2 weeks and study the environment. Others learn about people of the past. Others work with animals or plants. Hard work in the far north. Would you like an adventure in the far north? Scientists are worried about changes in the climate worldwide. They are studying how the environment is changing because of a warming climate. 2 teams of volunteers, one in Alaska and the other in Iceland, will study glaciers, huge fields of ice that move very slowly. These glaciers are getting smaller. Scientists wonder why and how. Another team will go to Manitoba, Canada. This team will collect information on birds, mammals, and the amount of snow. If you like exercise and cold weather, these are good trips for you, but you must be in very good physical condition. Studying ocean mammals. Do you enjoy ocean animals? You can spend 2 weeks in Florida. There, you can study dolphins. It will be exciting to learn about these intelligent ocean mammals. These beautiful animals can live to over 50 years of age. They travel together in family groups. From small boats, volunteers will study and photograph these groups. The purpose of this research is to learn about the animals' social behavior. Scientists want to know what dolphins do and how they live. Also, scientists want to study dolphins' health. For example, they wonder, is ocean pollution changing the dolphins' health? If you like warm weather, the ocean, and animals, this is a good trip for you. Digging up the past. Are you interested in history or prehistory? Then southwest France is the place for your adventure. Between 35,000 and 250,000 years ago, early humans lived in this area. Volunteers will work with archaeologists from France, Germany, and the United States to search for evidence about the way of life of the people from that time. If you choose this adventure, you will dig for stone tools and bones, clean them, and photograph them. In your free time, you can travel around the beautiful countryside in the south of France. Beaches and biology. Do you enjoy the beach and like to learn about plants? There is an Earthwatch adventure in Yucatan, Mexico. On the north coast of Yucatan, there are beautiful species of plants. Unfortunately, many of them are disappearing. People dig them up and sell them for large amounts of money. Mexican biologists need volunteers to collect seeds, count plants, and help to save several plant species. In your free time, You can travel to archaeological sites in the area. If you love a tropical climate, this is the trip for you. Do you want a very different vacation? Do you want to travel far, work hard, and learn a lot? Then an Earthwatch vacation is for you.
Lesson 10. Save the Earth.
Part 1.
The ocean in trouble. Many environmental groups are warning that oceans worldwide are in great danger. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, 70% of the world's fishing areas are in danger. One reason, of course, is the huge amount of pollution. However, there is another danger, and it might be even more harmful than pollution. This danger is overfishing. No matter where you look in the world, on average, 90% of the fish are gone, says a biologist from Dalhousie University in Canada. New technology. Fishers are finding fewer and fewer fish everywhere. However, this does not mean that fishermen are not fishing any longer. Instead, many are using new technology to fish new waters as deep as a mile. Trawlers, large fishing boats, are using special nets on wheels and rollers. They drag these nets across the bottom of the deep oceans, and they pick up anything of any size at all. With these nets, fishers catch the fish that people eat, but the nets also catch marine mammals such as sea lions, dolphins, and sometimes whales. The effect on fish. These nets also take species like squid, skate, red crabs, slackjaw eels, spiny dogfish, and orange roughy. A few years ago, people didn't want to eat these species. Now, you can find them in fish stores, in fish sandwiches at fast food restaurants, or in fake, not real, crab meat for seafood salads. The orange roughy provides an example of what is happening. This fish appeared in fish stores only about 10 years ago, but already the species is almost extinct. The orange roughy lives very deep in the ocean, up to a mile deep, in the cold waters off New Zealand. Scientists now know that fish in deep, cold water grow and reproduce very slowly. For example, the orange roughy lives to be 150 years old. It doesn't start to reproduce until it is 30 years old. Although the fish is nearly extinct, people still sell it in seafood stores and in restaurants. And of course, it may be in that fish sandwich that you eat at a fast food restaurant. Many scientists believe that present fishing methods will destroy all the large fishing areas of the world. Can anything stop this? Some scientists think that governments should stop the fishing industry from using some kinds of technology. But this will be difficult. Many of the big fishing companies have a lot of money, and they use that money to influence politicians all around the world. No fishing zones. Other scientists believe that governments should create no fishing zones, areas where no one can fish. Governments can police these areas. During the UN International Year of the Ocean, more than 1,600 leading marine scientists and conservation biologists from 65 countries urged the world to create 80 times the no fishing areas that exist now. Their goal is to protect 20% of the world's oceans by the year 2020. This is happening in some places. For example, the fishing industry in Britain is beginning to accept no fishing zones because the amount of fish that the industry catches is getting smaller and smaller. The fishing industry often argues that the scientific evidence is not complete, that we just don't know what is going on in the oceans. Now, scientists and environmentalists have to give evidence to show that the fishing industry is doing damage before the government will pass laws protecting the ocean. This takes time, and sometimes it is difficult to prove something like this. The magazine Science says we should have the opposite rule. Big fishing companies should have to prove that they are not destroying the oceans before we allow them to fish. Conclusion. Environmentalists say that average people need to get together and pressure their governments to do something. The large fishing companies that own the big trawlers are not going to stop fishing by themselves. The environmentalists say that if we don't pressure our governments, there will be nothing left in the oceans but water.
Part 2.
Repairing the environment. Early life on Easter Island. Easter Island is a very small island in the Pacific Ocean. In the ancient past, the island was covered with vegetation, such as beautiful forests, and the surrounding ocean was rich in fish. The human population grew to about 9,000 people. Today, we know them for their art, hundreds of huge, amazing statues that are made of stone. Over several hundred years, the people created larger and larger statues. The changing history. For about 700 years, life on Easter Island was good. However, by the 15th century, people suddenly stopped creating the statues. Also, the environment completely changed. The earth didn't produce enough food for the population. The forests were gone because people cut down all the trees. Without trees, they couldn't even build canoes, a kind of small boat. And for this reason, they couldn't go fishing. The society was destroyed. The people were hungry. When Europeans arrived in 1722, there were only about 2,000 people left. Easter Island as an example. Scientists often mention Easter Island. They see it as an example of the damage that humans can do to the environment. They say that our Earth is like an island. When we destroy it, we destroy ourselves. They say that we are now destroying it. Like the people of ancient Easter Island, we are cutting down forests. Worldwide, the environment is changing. The climate is becoming warmer. Glaciers are melting. Pollution fills many rivers and lakes and the air of many cities. And every year, about 20,000 plant and animal species become extinct. What we can do. Some people see this situation as hopeless, but environmentalists say that it isn't too late. There are things that we can do. Governments and big companies need to make big changes, but every individual can make many small changes. All these small changes can add up. They can make a big difference. Here are just some. Plant trees. Trees absorb, drink in, the carbon dioxide, CO2, that factories put into the air. Buy organic fruits and vegetables, ones without dangerous chemicals. These are good for your health and good for the earth, too. Reuse containers. In other words, don't throw empty plastic food containers into the trash or garbage. Wash them and use them again. Also, use plastic bags many times. When you throw away a plastic bag or container, it stays in the earth for thousands of years. Don't use paper or plastic bags. Bring a cloth bag with you to the supermarket. You can use the same cloth bag over and over for years. Recycle things that you can't reuse. You can recycle aluminum cans, glass bottles, some plastic containers, and newspapers. Use compact fluorescent light bulbs. They last 10 times longer than regular light bulbs, so they save you money. Also, they use 75% less energy. One of these bulbs can keep a half-ton, 1,000 pounds, of carbon dioxide out of the air. Do you eat tuna fish? If so, look carefully at the can. Buy only tuna that is dolphin safe. In other words, tuna from companies with special nets that don't kill dolphins. Write letters to government leaders. Ask them for laws that protect the environment. Tell them that you want the earth to be here for your great-great-grandchildren.
Intermediate level. Lesson 1. Student's Life.
Part 1.
International students. Introduction and definitions. All around the world, there are international students at institutions of higher education. The definition of an international student is a post-secondary student from another country. The meaning of post-secondary is after high school. Another phrase for international students is foreign students. The word foreign means of a different country or culture. Even so, some people don't like the word foreign. Instead, they use the phrase international students. For an institution of higher education, they say university, college, or school. Where international students attend school. International students leave their home countries. They go to school abroad. One meaning of the word abroad is in a foreign place. Probably the country with the most students from abroad is the United States. Canada, Great Britain, and some other European countries also have a lot of students from other countries. But more and more, international students attend colleges and universities in the developing nations of Latin America, Asia, and Africa. Developing nations are countries without a high level of industrialization or technology. Why students attend school abroad. Why do high school and college graduates go to colleges and universities far from their homes? Undergraduates are post-secondary students without college degrees. Often, undergraduates want the experience of life in new cultures. Maybe they want to learn another language well. Many students want degrees in business, engineering, or technology. These subjects are not always available in their home countries. Some governments and companies send their best graduate students and workers to other countries for new knowledge and skills. And some international students from expensive private schools at home save money through study abroad programs, especially in developing nations. Why universities want foreign students. Why do institutions of higher education want international students? Students from other countries and cultures bring internationalism to the classroom and campus. They bring different languages, customs, ideas, and opinions from many places. Also, educational institutions need money. Tuition is the fee or charge for instruction. Private schools are colleges and universities not supported by government money. They charge high tuition. International students are not citizens or immigrants. One definition of citizens and immigrants is legal members of a nation or country. International students pay full tuition and fees to state or government schools. And all students away from home have to spend money for housing, food, recreation, and other things. For these reasons, many schools and groups of schools want students from other countries. Conclusion and summary. For different reasons, many high school and college graduates want or need to study abroad. For other reasons, many nations want or need students from other countries and cultures on their college and university campuses.
Part 2.
University life around the world. Similarities in student life. At colleges and universities around the world, students from other places live in student housing on campus, in apartments, or in the private homes of other people. They walk to school or get there by bicycle or by car. Sometimes they take public transportation like the bus or subway. They attend classes and take quizzes or tests or exams. They complete necessary course requirements. After years of study, they get certificates or college degrees. These are proof of completion of courses of study. Outside school, they have other interests and family or social lives. In some ways, life on the campuses of institutions of higher education is the same everywhere in the world. Systems of higher education. Maybe student life is similar, but the system of higher education differs in countries around the world. For example, in the United States, post-secondary students can live at home and go to community colleges for 2 years or more. Or they can choose 4-year state or private colleges or universities. They can get financial aid like scholarships, grants, or loans. This money helps students to pay college tuition and other charges. Loans have to be paid back. With undergraduate degrees, they can attend graduate school. The system is different in some countries of Asia or the Middle East, like Iran. There, students take an exit exam in their last year of high school. The people with the highest scores attend the best universities in the country. Other students can go to other kinds of colleges or get jobs. Differences in teaching and learning styles. But not only the system of higher education can vary. Teaching and learning methods and styles differ in various cultures, at different colleges and universities, and in individual courses. For example, the atmosphere in many classrooms is very formal. Students use titles such as Professor Gonzalez or Mrs. Wong for their instructors. Some teachers wear business clothes and give academic lectures. Students respect the knowledge and views of their master teachers. Other classrooms have an informal atmosphere. Instructors dress casually, and students use instructors' first names. In this relaxed atmosphere, class members work together in groups. They tell their individual experiences, give their opinions, and talk about their ideas. Some teachers always follow a course plan or the textbook. They give a lot of assignments. They give points, scores, or grades for homework. In their courses, students take many quizzes, tests, and exams. All over the world, there are teaching and learning differences. Campus facilities and services. And what about the facilities and services available to students at college and university campuses around the world? At many institutions of higher education, resources for learning and recreation are available to students. At libraries, they can read and study books and other materials. At learning resource centers, they can often work on computers. Maybe they can use educational software programs or the internet. Sometimes audio or video equipment is available. And people can buy books, supplies, and other things at campus stores. Also, learners can get advice from counselors and individual help with their courses from tutors. Maybe they can relax and have fun on campus too. Some schools have swimming pools, tennis courts, and other sports facilities. Most have snack bars, cafeterias, or other eating places. And at some schools, not all students go to the campus. They take internet courses by computer, see and hear lectures on television, or use other kinds of distance learning.
Lesson 2, The Nature.
Part 1.
The powerful influence of weather. Biometeorologists and their research. Weather has a powerful impact on the physical world. It also affects people's personalities. How do we know about the effects of weather on people? We know from biometeorologists. These scientists study weather. They study how atmospheric conditions affect human health and emotions. The word atmosphere means the air around the Earth. Atmospheric conditions at a time or place is a definition of the word weather. Some examples of these conditions are sun, wind, rain, snow, humidity, the amount of moisture in the air, and air pressure, the force of air. The weather conditions of the atmosphere greatly influence or affect people's health, thinking, and feelings. How wind can affect health. All over the world, winds come down from high mountain areas. The winds fall faster and faster, and the air becomes warmer and drier. What do scientists say about the health effects of this kind of weather? According to biometeorologists in Russia, powerful winds from the mountains increase the number of strokes, blood vessel attacks in the brain. Also, sometimes strong southern winds blow north over Italy. During these times, researchers say, Italians have more heart attacks, sudden stopping of the heart. People everywhere have bad headaches during times of forceful winds. And Japanese weather scientists say there is an increase in the number of asthma attacks. Asthma is a lung disorder. It causes breathing problems. Possible effects of other kinds of weather. Do other kinds of weather influence physical health? Sudden temperature changes in winter are often associated with a cold or the flu. The flu, or influenza, is a viral disease. However, colds and flu probably increase because people are in close contact, near one another, indoors in cold weather. Colds and flu may even lead to pneumonia, another lung disease. Other illnesses also increase during long times of cold weather. In most places, diseases of the blood and heart attacks are more common in winter. But in some very hot and humid, wet regions, there are more heart attacks in summer. Many people have high blood pressure, a health condition. In 3 out of 4 people, blood pressure goes down in warm weather. But some people have lower blood pressure in the cool or cold times of the year. Weather and mood. These forces of nature greatly affect people's moods, emotional conditions, and feelings, too. For many people, winter in the northern regions is very depressing. They eat and sleep a lot, but they usually feel tired. They are nervous and can't work well. They are irritable, not very nice to other people. Biometeorologists even have a name for this condition. The name is seasonal affective disorder, SAD. Scientists think the cause of this mood disorder is the long periods of darkness. Even during the day, it is often cloudy or gray. What can people with SAD do about their moods? Naturally, they need more light. On bright days, they feel better. But people don't work very well on sunny, hot, and humid days. The best weather for good work and thinking is cool and clear. Conclusion and summary. Are the people around you becoming sick more often? Are they getting more colds or the flu or even pneumonia? Are they having more health problems like headaches or asthma attacks or heart disease? Or are you becoming moody? Are you getting more tired or depressed, low in mood, or sad? Remember, according to biometeorologists and other weather scientists, the cause may be the atmosphere.
Part 2.
Global climate changes. Climate in regions of the globe. The word weather means the atmospheric conditions at a specific place and time. The weather can vary from day to day. In contrast to weather, climate is the general or average atmospheric conditions of a region. In different areas of the globe, the climate generally stays the same from year to year. For example, the climate in the desert is usually very dry. It may be cold in winter and hot in summer, but there is very little rain or humidity. In contrast, in tropical rainforests, there is very high humidity. In most other areas of the world, The weather is cool or cold and wet or dry in the winter season. It is warm or hot and dry or humid in the summer months. According to some meteorologists, weather researchers, the Earth's climate is changing slowly. In most places on the Earth, the weather varies from season to season or even from day to day. In contrast, the typical climate is similar every year. Even so, there may be global climate changes from one long time period to another. What are these changes? Some scientists believe the weather is becoming more extreme. There are longer periods of very cold and very hot temperatures. There are more and more powerful hurricanes and tornadoes, storms with strong, fast winds, and blizzards, heavy snowstorms. Floods, large amounts of water on dry land, and long droughts, times without enough rain, are causing greater and greater physical damage to the human communities on Earth. These extreme forces of nature will get even worse in the future, say some people. And every change in climate in one part of the globe will bring more extreme changes in other areas. Global warming and El Niño are having major effects on the Earth's atmosphere, weather, and climate. At least, that's the opinion of many researchers and scientists. What is global warming? It is a slow increase in the average yearly temperature of the planet. The cause is an increase of gases in the atmosphere. What is El Niño? The Spanish phrase means the little boy or the Christ child. It names a weather condition most common in the month of December. This seasonal weather disorder is a change in the atmosphere of the tropical areas of the Pacific Ocean. It increases the amount of rain in the Americas and can bring strong winds and hurricanes. In contrast, El Niño may cause drought in the southern and western Pacific, Asia. Blizzards, snow, and long periods of low temperatures may follow in the northern regions of the globe. Not all meteorologists believe there is much natural global warming. According to these scientists, the El Niño effect is not getting stronger. So why is the temperature of the Earth going up? Why are tropical storms like hurricanes causing more and greater flood and wind damage? Probably, human beings are the main cause of the extreme effects of weather and climate changes. Cars and factories are putting more and more gases like carbon dioxide, CO2, into the Earth's atmosphere. Coal and oil add carbon dioxide to the air too. Trees and plants take in carbon dioxide, but humans are cutting down the rainforests and putting up buildings where green plants used to grow. The world has a lot of people now, and it will have a lot more people in the future.
Lesson 3, Food and Diet.
Part 1.
Global diet choices. Meanings of the word diet. Most words in the English language have more than one simple or basic meaning. One example is the word diet. The most general definition of the noun is a person's or a group's usual food choices and habits. In a more specific definition, diet means an eating plan with only certain kinds or amounts of food. For instance, a diet is often a plan to lose weight. And as a verb, diet means to lose weight. People can go on a diet, meaning they are starting a program to lose weight. International fast food. All over the world, the global diet includes fast food. Prepared items from inexpensive restaurants, snack bars, or food stands. Some examples of typical American fast food are hamburgers, hot dogs, sandwiches, and fried chicken. Some common international fast foods might be German sausage and schnitzel, Italian pizza and pasta, Mexican tacos and burritos, Middle Eastern shish kebab and falafel, Japanese sushi and tempura, and Chinese egg rolls and noodles. Why is this kind of food becoming even more universal or worldwide? First, fast food restaurants usually prepare and serve the items quickly. Second, many fast food restaurants are part of fast food chains, eating places with the same name and company owner. For instance, the biggest and most famous American fast food chain serves hamburgers in every continent on the planet except Antarctica. Its menu items may not be exactly alike in all cultures, but its 25,000 restaurants all have the same look and style. The atmosphere seems comfortable and familiar. Third, the items at fast food places usually cost less than meals in formal restaurants or special dishes made at home. And finally, people usually enjoy the taste of the food, even if it is not very nutritious, healthy. How people make individual food choices. How do most people make their diet decisions? Individual choices are often based on former habits, cost and convenience, beliefs about health and nutrition, and ideas about physical beauty. Some people learn to like certain foods in childhood, and they don't change later in life. Many people have busy lives, so they buy or prepare food and eat it as quickly as possible. Some meal planners think only fresh and natural food is nutritious, so they buy vegetables, fruits, and foods without additives, chemical substances, and prepare it in healthy ways. People with health problems, like high blood pressure or diabetes, a blood sugar disorder, may be on special non-salt or non-sugar diets. The nutritional requirements of very young or very old people may be different from the needs of others. Some cultures prefer a slim body to a well-rounded one, so people are always trying to lose weight. They may follow popular diets, such as a low-carb diet, an eating system high in protein but low in refined carbohydrates. Other reasons for diet habits around the world. Unlike individual food plans, the diets of whole cultures and regions come from location, history, and tradition. For example, the typical Mexican diet is a combination of foods from pre-Columbian, Spanish, and French cultures. It is rich in complex carbohydrates, corn, beans, rice, breads, and protein, beans, eggs, fish, meat. Fish and fish products from the seas around Japan are one of the most important parts of the traditional Japanese diet. Rich in vitamins and minerals, seafood is served grilled, baked, raw, dried, pickled, hot, and cold. Soy products, miso, tofu, and bean paste, fermented vegetables, and rice are also important in the typical Japanese diet. Religious practices may also greatly affect diet. For instance, some Jewish people keep kosher, follow the requirements of Jewish food preparation and eating. These laws prohibit eating pork or bacon or other meat from pigs, shellfish, snake, or insects. In addition, people should not eat meat and dairy, milk products, at the same meal. In a similar way, Muslims follow the laws of eating halal, an Islamic system of eating only permitted foods. Some foods, such as pork or insects, are not permitted. Though people can eat some meat, such as beef from cows, the animals must be killed in a special way, according to ritual. Also, for religious reasons, some Christians eat fish instead of meat on Fridays. They also limit their food choices during Lent, the 40 days before Easter, in the spring. Conclusion and summary. The global diet. Universally, more and more meals include basic necessary food elements: protein, carbohydrates, and fats. Almost everywhere, some kind of meat, fish, dairy product, or another food with protein is part of a good breakfast, lunch, or dinner. There are also grains, breads, vegetables, fruit, and the like. Many dishes contain the necessary vitamins and minerals. A few families grow their own food, but most people buy food from eating places and markets in their communities. Food may be fresh, prepared, canned, frozen, or packaged. Fast food is very popular, and maybe it is becoming healthier. In some ways, diet choices are becoming more and more similar around the world. Even so, the variety of food choices is large now and is probably going to increase. Are cooking customs, eating habits, and food preferences all over the world becoming more or less healthy? Are they better or worse for human beings? These questions are interesting topics of research and discussion.
Part 2.
Facts about food. Food fights. Everywhere on Earth there are food specialists with opposite or different opinions on the best kinds of nutrition for various purposes. A lot of people believe that the healthiest diets are high in fiber, vitamins, and minerals, but low in fat, cholesterol, sugar, and salt. Some nutritionists say the perfect eating plan contains mostly carbohydrates without much protein. In contrast, other scientists say people need high-protein meals with meat, chicken, fish, or milk products, and only small amounts of grains, potatoes, breads, rice, and noodles. One famous diet plan allows only certain foods at certain times: protein with protein, carbohydrates with carbohydrates, fruits alone, and so on. Some eaters stay away from all meat and maybe even fish and milk products. They get their protein from plants, mostly beans. Others want only high-fiber food. These people may not eat white bread or white rice or even cooked vegetables. So, what is the best way to eat and be healthy? The discussion of food facts will go on far into the future. The necessary substances and elements for human life and health are water, protein, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and minerals. Most kinds of food contain some or all of the required nutrients, but these substances have different effects on people. Various ingredients and dishes affect the mind in different ways, and some kinds of nourishment have better effects on the brain than others. For instance, can broccoli increase brain power? Maybe so. Low levels of some of the B vitamins can cause a decrease in memory and thinking ability, nutritionists say. But dark green vegetables like broccoli contain a lot of these nutrients. Another example of a memory helper is lecithin, a substance from soybeans also found in high-fiber foods like nuts and whole grains. High-protein foods influence the mind in more helpful ways than dishes high in sugar and carbohydrates. And the caffeine in coffee or tea may help thinking. Of course, its effects don't last long. In many places outside big cities, food with more than 4 legs is part of good, healthy home cooking. Fried or grilled ants are a tasty but expensive snack in Colombia, South America. In various parts of Mexico, over 300 types of insects serve as food. In southern Africa, many people like to eat at least one kind of caterpillar or worm. They enjoy it fried, dried, or cooked in tomato sauce. In Thailand, cooks create a spicy hot pepper sauce with water bugs. In Vietnam, grasshoppers filled with peanuts are a special dish. And in some regions of China, bugs are not only a part of meals, but an important ingredient in medicine too. Most kinds of insects have high nutritional value. They contain a lot of protein, vitamins, and minerals. Many people like their taste. They are everywhere on the planet. They add to the variety of people's diets. For several reasons, insects are an important kind of food in the global diet, and they may become a more common ingredient in the future. The growing similarities in diet and eating habits around the world are influencing people of various cultures in different ways. For example, Western foods are damaging health in the industrialized island country of Japan. Instead of small meals of seafood, rice, and vegetables, the typical Japanese diet now includes large amounts of meat, dairy products, like whole milk ice cream, and desserts like tiramisu, a rich Italian dish full of chocolate, cheese, and sugar. According to Japanese health researchers, such changes in eating habits are related to a great increase in health problems such as heart disease, strokes, cancer, and diabetes. On the other hand, the changing global diet is having the opposite effect on the people in the Czech Republic. The government of this European nation no longer supports meat and dairy products financially, so the cost of these foods is going up. In contrast, fresh fruits and vegetables are becoming more widely available from private markets and stands. Cooks are even serving salads to school children, and families are eating healthier home-cooked meals. For these reasons, fewer Czech men are having heart attacks, the women are losing a lot of weight, and most people are living healthier lives.
Lesson 4, The Community Where You Live.
Part 1.
How can I get to the post office? I have a special rule for travel. Never carry a map. I prefer to ask for directions. Sometimes I get lost, but I usually have a good time. And there are some other advantages. I can practice a new language, meet new people, learn new customs and the like. I learn about different styles of directions every time I ask, how can I get to the post office? Here are some illustrations of those differences. Tourists are often confused in Japan. That's because most streets there don't have names. Outside big cities, people most often use landmarks in their directions. For example, the Japanese might tell travelers something like this. Go straight down to the corner, turn left at the big hotel with the sushi bar, and go past the fruit market. The post office is across from the bus stop, next to the fast food fried chicken place. In the United States, people might give directions in different ways according to their region or community. In the countryside of the American Midwest, for example, there are not usually many landmarks. There are no mountains, so the land is very flat. In many places, there are no towns or buildings for miles. Instead of landmarks, residents of the flatlands will tell you directions like north, south, east, and west, and distances like 2 miles. In the states of Kansas or Iowa, for instance, people will say things such as, "Take this road here, go straight north for 2 miles, make a right turn, and then go another mile in a northeast direction. Keep to the left around the curve, then merge with local Route 12. In most cities, however, people will name the streets, number of blocks, even the number of stoplights or stop signs. People in towns or cities might say, go straight for 5 blocks, turn left at Main Street, go to the 3rd stoplight and turn right. That's 6th Street. The post office is 2 blocks up on your left. Many people around the world can get street directions on the internet. People in Canada, the United States, and many European countries can go to a website to get directions. They type in a start point and an end point for their trip. Then they get instructions like these. Take I-40, the interstate highway, 26 miles. Go straight, east. Enter Texas. Keep left northwest 8.7 miles. Turn right. Merge onto Turner Turnpike. At exit 5B, take ramp right towards Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. They print out these directions and carry the papers with them, sometimes with a map. Without a computer printout, on the other hand, some people in Los Angeles, California may have no idea of distance on the map. Residents of this Pacific Coast area are almost always in their cars, so they measure distance in time. How far away is the post office, you ask? Oh, they might answer, I guess it's about 5 minutes from here. You say, yes, but how many miles away is it, or how many kilometers or blocks? They rarely know, or they can seldom say. Sometimes people in Greece do not even try to give directions. That's because tourists seldom understand the Greek language. Instead, a Greek person may motion or gesture or say, "Follow me." Then that person will lead you through the streets of a city to the post office. What if a person doesn't know the answer to your question about the location of a place? A New Yorker might say, "Sorry, I have no idea," and walk away quickly. But in Yucatan, Mexico, not many residents answer, "I don't know." People in Yucatan may believe that a quick "I don't know" is impolite. They might stay and talk to you. And usually they'll try to give an answer, sometimes a wrong one. A tourist without a good sense of direction can get very, very lost in this southern region. One thing will help you everywhere, in Japan, the United States, Greece, Mexico, or any other place. You might not understand a person's words, but you can probably understand the body language, like facial expressions, gestures, movements, and so on. He or she will usually turn and then point his or her finger in a particular direction. Go in that direction and you'll find the post office. Maybe.
Part 2.
The laws of communities. Laws are rules for people and communities. For instance, in every country and culture of the world, there are laws against serious offenses, murder, robbery, violence against people, and the like. These laws make sense. They are necessary for safety and health, for community order, and for good human relationships in communities. They are probably similar all over the world. On the other hand, many laws and rules differ from country to country, from area to area, or even from one community to another. Some common illustrations of this variety are laws about driving, drinking alcohol, eating, smoking, shopping, money, people's rights, and many others. For instance, a legal action in Lima, Peru may be against the law in Seoul, Korea, and an illegal activity in an Asian community may be perfectly legal in a European city. On the other hand, laws may be the same in various countries but vary in different cities or states of the same nation. Every country has traffic rules and signs, but are they the same? In most countries, there are street and road signs with information about location, directions, dangers, cautions, and rules of the road. These signs tell drivers and pedestrians, walkers, what to do and what not to do, including speed and parking limits, places to stop, when to make turns, and other procedures. However, specific local traffic laws and practices usually differ around the world. For instance, in Japan, Indonesia, South Africa, the United Kingdom, and other countries, steering wheels are on the right side of vehicles, and cars and trucks drive on the left side of the road. In other countries, such as the United States, Saudi Arabia, Taiwan, Italy, and Mexico, steering wheels are on the left side of vehicles, and cars and trucks drive on the right side of the road. An illustration of a local traffic law is the regulations for pedestrian and school crossings in some Mexican cities. Drivers rarely respect the rules, so for safety, people cross streets only at stoplights, on roads with little traffic, or on pedestrian-only bridges across wide avenues. What about regulations and customs in other areas of people's lives? Some communities have a lot of rules about legal and illegal individual activities, even drinking and smoking. For instance, in most places in the United States, no one under 21 can buy or drink alcohol legally, even beer or wine. In some communities, it's illegal to drink a can of beer on a public street. It's also against the law to have an open alcohol container in a car. Similarly, smoking is no longer legal in public places, such as workplaces, restaurants, airports, and on airline flights within the United States. In Japan and other countries, there is a legal age for smoking. In some Muslim countries, all smoking is against religious law. On the other hand, many people around the world drink and smoke, including more and more teenagers and young people. Customs and habits do not always go along with health or safety regulations or laws. In the beginning, Most local laws have a clear purpose or reason. Even so, after many years, these same regulations can seem very strange or unusual. Here are some examples of old rules about personal relationships. In the back country of New Zealand, a man with many sisters can have the same number of wives. How is this custom legal? The man can give one sister to each of his wives' families. In some Indian communities, it is illegal for a young man and woman, married or not, to hold hands in a bus or train station. If they do, they have to pay an expensive fine. The law in some Chinese towns doesn't allow a man to give a woman a chicken leg during a meal. He can give her other chicken parts, but not a leg. And in Worland, Wyoming, a state in the United States, no married man may go camping alone or with his friends. He has to take along his wife. These old laws are probably still in effect, but not many people follow them.
Lesson 5, Home and Family.
Part 1.
A short history of the changing family. Past definitions of family. Like the community, the family is a social institution. Long ago, human beings lived in loosely related groups. Each group had a common ancestor, a family member from the distant past. But for over a millennium, 1,000 years, there have been two main types of families in the world, the extended form and the nuclear form. The extended family may include grandparents, parents, and children, and sometimes aunts, uncles, and cousins. In other words, relatives living in the same house or close together on the same street or in the same area. In contrast, the nuclear family consists of only parents and their biological, related by blood, or adopted children. Because of the industrialization in the 19th century, the nuclear family became the most common family structure. Kinds of families today. Today, there are many different kinds of families around the globe. Some people live in traditional families, that is to say, a stay-at-home mother, a working father, and their own biological children. Others live in two-paycheck families, that is, both parents work outside the home. There are many single-parent families. In other words, only a mother or a father lives with the children. Still others have adoptive or foster families. That is, adults take care of children not biologically theirs, or blended families. In other words, divorced or widowed men and women marry again and live with the children from their previous or earlier marriages. Some kids have step-parents, that is, mothers or fathers related to them by marriage instead of biology. In other families, some youngsters under the age of 18 have to take care of kids, either their own or their younger siblings, brothers and sisters. In different countries around the world, there are also same-sex partnerships, with or without children, childless marriages, unmarried live-in relationships, communal living groups, and so on. The early 20th century. What caused the structure of the family to change? Here is an example from the Western world. In the early 1900s in the United States, the divorce rate, that is, the percent of legal endings compared to the number of marriages, began to rise, and the birth rate, that is, the number of births per 100 or 1,000 people, began to decline. In other words, couples stayed married for fewer years, and they had fewer children. women often chose to get an education and take jobs outside the home. Decades, 10-year periods, later, the same things began to occur in other industrialized countries, and then developing countries of the world as well. The 1930s and 1940s. The decades of the 1930s and 1940s were difficult years in both industrialized and developing countries. Many families faced serious financial problems because the heads of households lost their jobs. During World War II, 1939 to 1945, millions of women had to take care of their homes and their children alone. Because so many men were at war, thousands of these war widows, that is to say, women whose husbands were away at war, had to go to work outside the home. Most women worked long hours at hard jobs. There weren't many perfect families. They had problems. After World War II. During the next decade, the situation changed in many places. There were fewer divorces, and people married at a younger age and had more children than in the previous generation. Men made enough money to support the family, so a mother seldom worked outside the home when her children were small. Children began living at home longer, that is, until an older age, usually after high school or even college. The traditional family was returning in the United States, it seemed, as in many other countries. The end of the 20th century. In the years between 1960 or so and the end of the 20th century, however, there were many new changes in the structure of the family around the globe. From the 1960s to the 1990s, the divorce rate in the Western world greatly increased, and the birth rate fell by half. The number of single-parent families rose, and the number of couples living together without marriage went up even more. At the end of the 20th and beginning of the 21st centuries, young adults of some economic classes started staying with their parents longer, marrying later, and having kids at an older age, if at all. The family of the future. Many people today would like the traditional two-parent family back. That is to say, they want a man and a woman to marry for life. They also think the man should support the family and the woman should stay home with the children. However, few families now fall into this category. In fact, if more women decide to have children on their own, the single-parent household may become more typical than the traditional family in many countries. Also, unmarried couples may decide to have more children, or they might take in foster children or adopt. And because people are staying single and living longer, often as widows, there may be more one-person households in the future. On the other hand, some people believe similar events happen again and again in history. If this is true, people may go back to the traditional extended or nuclear family of the past. Others think the only certainty in history is change. In other words, the structure of the future family could begin to change faster and faster and in more and more ways.
Part 2.
Time with the family, past and present. The sun was rising. A woman got up from a straw mat on the floor of her simple two-room family cottage. Her husband and their 4 children were still asleep on the mat. There were 5 other children. The couple gave 2 of them to a family with too few workers. The other 3 died long ago. The woman pushed aside the family goats. When she started the fire for cooking, the man and the children got up. While the daughter helped with the housework, the sons went outside to work in the fields with their father. They could see a castle not far away. The family lived under the protection of the master of the castle. They weren't his slaves, servants, but they paid him taxes. There was no schooling, so they couldn't read or write or get jobs in cities. During the long workday, they took breaks only for meals. Occasionally, they went to the village center, where they laughed and talked and played games. At night, people of the community got together around big fires. They told stories about the past. Most families used to live this way in England over 800 years ago. In the first half of the 20th century, the Japanese family was much more traditional than the typical American family. Young people didn't even used to date. In other words, they didn't go out together as couples. Instead, they had arranged marriages. Their parents chose their husband or wife. Maybe the couple fell in love after they got married, and maybe they didn't. Either way, the wife had children and stayed home with them while the husband supported the family financially. Often the husband and wife and their children lived in an extended family situation, 3 generations in one crowded house. Today, life in Japan is similar to that of many other industrialized countries in that many women work outside the home and young people choose their own mates. In the past, and in part today, much of Saudi culture has been different from Western culture. Under Islam, women should behave modestly in public, where they are often separated from men. Women play an important role in the home and are generally expected to focus on the family. In the 1960s, the government began a national education program for girls, and soon after that, education was available to all females. Today, there are many more interesting job opportunities for women. A few years ago, a sad thing happened. A young American woman left her family for career reasons. She moved far away. For this reason, a 36-year-old divorced father has custody of his 2 children, 11 and 8 years old. He works long hours as a waiter, including weekends. On his days off from work, he goes to a local community college. He's studying to improve his job skills so he can make more money for his family. At night, he does his homework at the same table as the children. But who takes care of the kids in the evenings when their father is working or going to school? His extended family. His mother, other relatives, and his new girlfriend help out as much as they can. He thinks his girlfriend, who is from Mexico, his home country, is good for his family. He doesn't want to date Anglos or anglicized women because he thinks they value their independence over motherhood. He wants a wife with traditional religious values like his mother.
Lesson 6, World Cultures.
Part 1.
Cross-cultural conversation. You want to talk about culture? Alan began the conversation in a proud voice. The United States is only a few hundred years old. Americans don't really have any culture. I mean, Americans are interesting, but they have zero culture. He made the sign for nothing with his hand. I agree with you, said Werner. He was pointing at Alan with his finger. Old Europe of the last 1,000 years. Now that's where the great culture was. The age of architecture, the magnificent historical cathedrals and castles are beautiful. It's essential to see the works of world-famous painters and sculptors from previous centuries in our excellent museums. And everyone should experience our classical literature and music in the best theaters and concert halls. Excuse me for interrupting, Alan, Werner apologized, but I just gave a perfect example of a long and significant cultural history. Camille spoke up. You know, we don't call a short millennium a cultural history. The real beginning of culture, significant civilization, was in the Middle East and Africa over 5,000 years ago. He continued, waving both hands in the air. Ancient communities not only knew how to create magnificent architecture and art, they also made amazing scientific and technological discoveries. They invented things. For instance, they figured out how to write and do mathematics. They studied astronomy, the science of the skies, the sun, and the planets. They invented the calendar. They even had medicine. The ancient religions came from that area too. Their achievements made world civilization possible. Those were the civilizations that gave humanity the most meaningful cultural legacy. May agreed with Camille. In a soft but knowing voice, she added, But the really important science and technology began to develop in Asia and the Americas. While the ancient Chinese were building walled cities, they organized the first governments. They invented tools for work and weapons for protection. And the native peoples of the Americas had very, very old civilizations and societies. That was ancient traditional culture. Ancient culture? That's a contradiction in definitions. Grinning, Karen objected in an enthusiastic, friendly way. She gave a contrasting opinion. It's impossible for culture to be old or traditional, she argued. The opposite is true. Culture isn't dead, it's alive. Culture is modern, culture is now. Kenji was starting to fall asleep, but suddenly he was fully awake. I agree, he said, interrupting Karen enthusiastically. You tell them, said Karen, appreciating the support for her point of view. For emphasis, she nodded vigorously. Culture is worldwide, it's universal. Kenji went on in his clear speaking style. He had a wide smile on his face. Take today's food culture. With our global fast food, I have to say, everyone eats the same. And because of the worldwide media, movies, TV, CDs, compact discs, the internet, everybody knows the same information, plays the same music, enjoys the same stories, even the jokes. And it's like people everywhere want to buy the same clothes, all because of advertising. A beautiful young couple in jeans and bright Hawaiian shirts anywhere in the world, eating hamburgers and French fries with their friends from many countries. Finally, we have a global culture, and tradition has nothing to do with it. Nadia, however, was of another opinion. You want to call modern movies, music, food, and clothes culture? She said sweetly but convincingly. Those things don't describe culture. Culture isn't about the sameness of people in communities around the world. It's about their differences. It's important for people to greet one another in various ways, and they need to use different titles and follow a variety of social rules in their relationships. Some societies are formal while others are informal or casual. Some groups are friendly and others aren't. And another example is the diverse use of language. Is it direct or indirect? How do communication styles include motions, gestures, facial expressions, and other body language? And customs are so interesting. They're what people of different national groups do in their everyday lives and on special occasions like holidays or celebrations. Culture means cultural diversity. What makes life amusing? It's the variety of cultures around the world, its contradictions and opposites. Yeah, maybe so, contributed Alan as politely as possible. On the other hand, he started to say. That does make some sense, interrupted Werner, beginning to smile, as long as you don't forget the arts, architecture, painting, literature, music. And if you also include ancient civilizations and traditions, added Camille with a pleasant expression on his face. He didn't like to contradict Nadia or any of his female friends. Well, we can certainly have opposing viewpoints, concluded Karen, and yet we still enjoy exchanging ideas. Everyone was smiling, and they wanted to talk a lot more.
Part 2.
Clues to World Cultures. An Irish woman was visiting tourist places in a Latin American city when she got a terrible headache. She knew what medicine she needed, so she went to a local pharmacy. The pharmacist was waiting on another customer when she came in. The Irish woman patiently waited her turn. While she was standing there, 2 other customers came in, then another, and then 3 more. Each time, the pharmacist turned his attention to the new people. He did not greet the Irish woman. He never said, "I'll be with you in a minute." After about 20 minutes, the woman couldn't stand the pain in her head any longer. "Hey, I've been here a long time," she said loudly, very annoyed and insulted. "Why is everyone ignoring me? I need service too," she shouted rudely, impolitely. A Middle Eastern businessman and his brother invited an American guest to their family home for dinner. The American got there on time and enjoyed the interesting conversation, the tea, and the attention. But as time passed, he got very, very hungry. Finally, he politely whispered to his host, "Excuse me, but are we going to eat dinner?" "Of course," answered his host. "We usually serve the evening meal around 9 o'clock, and when we have guests, we enjoy the long conversation before dinner." At the dinner table, everything was delicious, and the hungry American guest ate quickly. He emptied his plate, and his host put more food on it. As soon as he cleaned his plate a second time, the host gave him more. After several plates of food, he could eat no more. He was going to burst. "Please, please, please, don't give me any more food," he begged them. "I finished the food on this plate, but I can't eat another bite." Even then, his host insisted. The guest accepted a little more and ate it with difficulty. Finally, the supper dishes were removed. There was more conversation with more tea and coffee. At about midnight, the server brought a pitcher of ice water. The tired American knew it was okay to thank his hosts and leave. A group of international students were attending college in Europe. They had a long time between semesters for travel, so they decided to hitchhike as far as they could in other countries. In many places, they were successful. They put their thumbs out or pointed them backwards and smiled. Friendly drivers stopped. As soon as the first traveler got a yes answer from a driver, he motioned with his hand or fingers for his friends to come, or he held up both thumbs in an OK sign, or made a circle with the thumb and the next finger of one hand. The young tourists saved money, saw a lot of the countryside, and had interesting conversations and experiences. On the other hand, in Greece and Turkey, the visitors were not so lucky. Few drivers stopped to give them rides. Instead, most people ignored them. Others gave them mean looks from their cars. They seemed almost insulted that the visitors were begging for rides. A few drivers shouted terrible words at the travelers. 2 even got out of their truck and started a fight. The students thought the drivers were very rude. They felt confused, afraid, and unwelcome. After a few days, the students took the bus back to the countries where they were studying.
Lesson 7, Live a Long Life.
Part 1.
The secrets of a very long life. Introduction. There are several places in the world that are famous for people who live a very long time. These places are usually in mountainous areas, far away from modern cities. Even so, doctors, scientists, and public health experts often travel to these regions to solve the mystery of a long, healthy life. In this way, the experts hope to bring to the modern world the secrets of longevity. Hunza, in the Himalayan mountains. Hunza is at a very high altitude in the Himalayan mountains of Asia. There, many people over 100 years of age are still in good physical health. Additionally, men of 90 are new fathers, and women of 50 still have babies. What are the reasons for this good health? Scientists believe that the people of Hunza have these 3 main advantages or benefits. 1. A healthful, unpolluted environment with clean air and water. 2. A simple diet high in vitamins, fiber, and nutrition, but low in fat, cholesterol, sugar, and unnatural chemicals. And 3. Physical work and other activities, usually in the fields or with animals. The Russian Caucasians and Vilcabamba. People in the Caucasus Mountains in Russia are also famous for their longevity. Official birth records were not available, but the community says a woman called Surba lived until age 160. Similarly, a man called Shirali probably lived until 168. Moreover, his widow was 120 years old. In general, the people not only live a long time, but they also live well. In other words, they are almost never sick. Furthermore, when they die, they not only have their own teeth, but also a full head of hair and good eyesight too. Vilcabamba, Ecuador, is another area famous for the longevity of its inhabitants. This mountain region, like Hunza and the Caucasus, is also at a very high altitude, far away from cities. In Vilcabamba, too, there is very little serious disease. One reason for the good health of the people might be the clean, beautiful environment. Another advantage is the moderate climate. The temperature is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit all year long. Furthermore, the wind always comes from the same direction. In addition, the water comes from mountain streams and is high in minerals. Perhaps as a result of this valuable resource, the region is rich in flowers, fruits, vegetables, and wildlife. Differences in the diets of people with unusual longevity. In some ways, the diets of the inhabitants in the three regions are quite different. Hunzukuts eat mainly raw vegetables, fruit, especially apricots, and chapatis, a kind of pancake. They eat meat only a few times a year. In contrast, the Caucasian diet consists mainly of milk, cheese, vegetables, fruit, and meat. Also, most people there drink the local red wine daily. In Vilcabamba, people eat only a small amount of meat each week. Their diet consists mostly of grain, corn, beans, potatoes, and fruit. Even so, experts found one surprising fact in the mountains of Ecuador. Most people there, even the very old, consume a lot of coffee, drink large amounts of alcohol, and smoke 40 to 60 cigarettes daily. Similarities in diet. However, the typical diets of the three areas are similar in three general ways. 1. The fruits and vegetables are all natural, that is, they contain no preservatives or other chemicals. 2. Furthermore, the population uses traditional herbs and medicines to prevent and cure disease. 3. The inhabitants consume fewer calories than people do in other parts of the world. A typical North American eats and drinks an average of 3,300 calories every day, while a typical inhabitant of these mountainous areas takes in between 1,700 and 2,000 calories. Other possible reasons for healthy longevity. Inhabitants in the three regions have more in common than their mountain environment, their distance from modern cities, and their low-calorie natural diets. Because they live in the countryside and are mostly farmers, their lives are physically hard and extremely active. Therefore, they do not need to try to exercise. In addition, the population does not seem to have the stress of fast city work and recreation. As a result, people's lives are relatively free from worry, and therefore illness or other health problems. Thus, some experts believe that physical movement and a stress-free environment might be the two most important secrets of longevity. An additional health advantage of life in these long-lived communities may be the extended family structure. The group takes care of its members from birth to death. The validity of longevity claims. Nevertheless, some doctors theorize that members of especially long-lived populations have only one thing in common. They don't have valid official government birth records. These health scientists think there is a natural limit to the length of human life. In their theories, it is impossible to reach an age of more than 110 years or so. Therefore, they say, claims of unusual longevity in certain groups are probably false.
Lesson 8, The Media and Entertainment.
Part 1.
How the visual media affect people. Introduction. Benefits of the visual media. How do television and the other visual media affect the lives of individuals and families around the globe? The media can be very helpful to people and their children who carefully choose what they watch. With high-quality programming in various fields of study, science, medicine, nature, history, the arts, and so on, TV, videotapes, and DVDs increase the knowledge of the average and the well-educated person. They can also improve thinking ability. Moreover, television and other visual media benefit elderly people who can't go out often, as well as patients in hospitals and residents of nursing facilities. Additionally, it offers language learners the advantage of real-life audio-visual instruction and oral comprehension practice at any time of day or night. And of course, visual media can provide almost everyone with good entertainment, a pleasant way to relax and spend free time at home. Media replaces other activities. Nevertheless, there are several serious disadvantages to the visual media. First of all, some people watch the tube for more hours in a day than they do anything else. In a large number of homes, TV sets, as many as 5 or more in a single household, are always on. Many people watch TV for many hours a day or spend hours playing games or surfing on their computers. They download music, movies, and other forms of entertainment. Instead of spending time taking care of their kids, parents often use a video screen as an electronic babysitter. As a result, television and video can easily replace family communication as well as physical activity and other interests. The effects of TV on the mind. Second, too much TV, especially programming of low educational value, can reduce people's ability to concentrate or reason. In fact, studies show that after only a minute or two of visual media, a person's mind relaxes as it does during light sleep. Another possible effect of television and videotapes on the human brain is poor communication. Children who watch a lot of TV may lose their ability to focus on a subject or an educational activity for more than 10 to 15 minutes. Maybe it is because of the visual media that some kids, and adults too, develop attention deficit disorder, ADD, a modern condition in which people are unable to pay attention, listen well, follow instructions, or remember everyday things. The effects of violence in the media. A third negative feature of the media is the amount of violence on the screen, both in real events in the news and movies or in TV programs. It scares people and gives them terrible nightmares. The fear created by media images and language can last for a long time. On the other hand, frequent viewers of action programming get used to its messages. They might begin to believe there is nothing strange or unusual about violent crime, fights, killing, and other terrible events and behavior. Studies show that certain personality types are likely to have strong emotional reactions or dangerous thoughts after some kinds of entertainment. They may even copy the acts that they see on violent shows, start fires, carry and use weapons, attack people in angry or dangerous ways, and even worse. Dissatisfaction with normal living. Because of the visual media, some people may become dissatisfied with the reality of their own lives. To these viewers, everyday life does not seem as exciting as the roles actors play in movies or TV dramas. They realize they aren't having as much fun as the stars of comedy shows. Furthermore, average people with normal lives may envy famous media personalities who seem to get unlimited amounts of money and attention. Also, media watchers might get depressed when they can't take care of situations in real life as well as TV stars seem to. On the screen, they notice actors solve serious problems in hour or half-hour programs, or in 20-second commercials. Boredom with real life. Yet another negative feature of modern television is called trash TV. These daily talk shows bring real people with strange or immoral lives, personalities, or behavior to the screen. Millions of viewers, including children, watch as these instant stars tell their most personal secrets, shout out their angry feelings and opinions, and attack one another. TV watchers seem to like the emotional atmosphere and excitement of this kind of programming, as well as the tension of the real but terrible stories on TV news magazine shows. A newer version of this kind of entertainment is called reality TV. In shows like Survivor, The Amazing Race, American Idol, and The Apprentice, real people compete for attention, fame, and other rewards. What effect does frequent viewing of such programs have on people's lives? It makes television more real than reality, and normal living begins to seem boring. Disadvantage of the media: addiction. Finally, the most negative effect of all of these kinds of visual media might be addiction. People often feel a strange and powerful need to watch TV, download visual material, or play a DVD even when they don't enjoy it or have the free time for entertainment. Addiction to a TV or computer screen is similar to drug or alcohol dependence. Addicts almost never believe they are addicted. Even so, truthful media addicts have to answer yes to many of these questions. Do you immediately turn on the TV set or computer when you arrive home from school or work? Do you watch a lot of programming that requires little focus or thinking ability? Can you concentrate on another topic or activity for only 10 to 15 minutes at a time? Do you enjoy the action and violence of the media more than activity in your own life? Do you feel envious of the lives of well-known TV or screen personalities or the participants in reality TV shows? Do you feel closer to the people on TV than to your own family members and friends? For you, is TV or video the easiest and therefore the best form of relaxation or fun? Would you refuse to give up your TV viewing and internet connection for $1 million? Would you like to compete on a TV reality show more than do anything else?
Part 2.
Media stories. Story plot A. Marian, who works in a real estate office, is depressed about her life, especially her unhappy love relationship. Because she is feeling ill, her supervisor lets her leave early. He gives her $40,000 in cash from a house sale to put in the bank on her way home. However, temptation gets the best of the moody young woman. With the cash in an envelope, she packs her bags and drives out of town. On a dark, lonely road, a severe thunderstorm forces her to stop at the run-down Bates Motel. There is a scary old house high on a hill behind the motel, with the form of an old woman in a rocking chair at the window. Norman Bates, the motel owner, is happy to sign in a guest, but his mother shouts at him angrily. After a conversation with Norman, Marian goes to her room. When she is in the shower, the bathroom door opens. In a very famous, very bloody murder scene, the shadowy figure of an old woman pulls aside the shower curtain and stabs the motel guest to death. Horrified, Norman cleans up the room, puts Marion's body in her car, and pushes the car into the swamp. Worried about her and the stolen money, Marion's sister, lover, and boss send out an investigator, who finally arrives at the Bates Motel. Suspicious of Norman's strange behavior, the investigator goes into the scary house, where the dark shape of an old woman at the top of the stairs kills him too, with a long knife. Others come to investigate. After many suspenseful scenes, they discover that Norman's mother is a skeleton. The murderer in the old woman's clothes was Norman Bates himself, who has turned more and more into his mother. Story Plot B. After a hurricane sinks their ship off the coast of Africa, a British couple finds their way to land with their baby son. However, the parents are killed by a wild animal. A gorilla, the largest of the human-like monkeys, finds the baby, brings him home to her mate, and raises the helpless human in the jungle. As a result, he grows to adulthood in the natural ape community. Nevertheless, the young man's peaceful life in the jungle soon changes. To study African wildlife in its natural environment, Professor Porter arrives with his daughter Jane and a hunter named Clayton. When the explorers meet the jungle man, at first they think he is the missing link, a being halfway between an animal and a human being. Therefore, they are surprised to discover that he is as human as they are. When he begins to feel strange, unfamiliar emotions towards Jane, the man that grew up in the jungle becomes very confused. He wants to be with his own kind, but doesn't want to leave the gorilla family that raised him, especially since Clayton sees the apes not as friends, but as animals to hunt and kill. When Jane has to leave with her father, the ape man is very sad and upset. Even so, he saves the white people when they are captured, and Jane stays with him in the jungle. Story Plot C. The Starship Enterprise, a flying vehicle that travels to other galaxies at amazing speeds, stops at a space station for repairs. The four Beanars, beings with computerized brains, that are doing maintenance seem worried. Suddenly, they realize the ship is about to explode and order evacuation. Everyone leaves except Picard, the captain, and Riker, the second man in command, who don't hear the alert. After everyone else reaches the starbase, the space station, the problem mysteriously corrects itself and the ship disappears. As the crew on the starbase try to figure out a way to recover the Enterprise, the captain and his helper discover what has happened. They instantly transport themselves to the bridge, where they find the Beanars unconscious, dying, and asking for help. The ship reaches Benares, the Beanars' planet. Because of an exploded star that destroyed the planet's center computer, Benares is dead too. The Beanars needed the Enterprise to store the data from the planet during the shutdown time. Picard and Riker manage to get into the Benares file and restart the computer. The Beanars come back to life. Undamaged, the ship returns to the starbase. Story Plot D. It is the middle of the 19th century. a very romantic time of honor and passion. Matilda Peñalver y Beristain is an aristocrat, a member of the nobility, the most wealthy, powerful class in society. She falls in love with Adolfo Solis, an army soldier with no fortune. Matilda trusts that her fair, kind father will let her marry her true love. However, Augusta, Matilda's mother, objects. With her powerful connections, she sends Adolfo to prison. Lying, she tells her daughter that Adolfo is married with children. Because their family is facing bankruptcy, Augusta wants Manuel Fuentes Guerra, an honorable and handsome young man who has just inherited a vast fortune, to be her son-in-law. Confused and desperate, Matilda marries Manuel. Soon, Adolfo escapes from jail. After a frantic and tense search, he finds Matilda. Posing as the new ranch administrator, he recognizes her husband as an honest, fair, and decent man. At that point, Manuel and Matilda discover Augusta's deceit in their marriage. But in the meantime, Matilda's feelings for Adolfo are beginning to disappear. She is starting to fall in love with Manuel. Heartbroken, Adolfo accepts reality and leaves the ranch. Matilda announces she is pregnant. However, to be continued.
Lesson 9, Social Life.
Part 1.
Meeting the Perfect Mate, Part 1. For the past month, I've been taking a university graduate course called Social Structure. It's a very popular class. We've been discussing friendship, social life, dating, marriage, and other relationships through the generations and throughout the world. One of our assignments is to examine the ways that people meet potential spouses, husbands and wives. I've been interviewing students on campus all week as part of my study. I'm amazed at what I've been hearing. First, I talked with my roommate in the dormitory, Usha, an international student from India. "What's one way to meet a possible mate?" I asked her. "Well," she said, "one method in my country is to have an arranged marriage." "A what?" I asked. "I know you can match a tie to a shirt or 2 socks after you do the laundry, then they're a match. But people?" "Sure," she replied. "There are still arranged marriages these days, and there were a lot more not too long ago. My parents, for example, met each other for the first time on their wedding day. My grandparents chose their children's spouses and arranged the weddings." "Do you mean that the bride and groom weren't in love?" "That sounds awful. Weren't they worried?" "Maybe a little bit," Usha said, "but they accepted each other. Then, fortunately, they learned to love each other. They've had a good, successful marriage for the past 30 years. This happens in a lot of arranged marriages. You know, even today some Orthodox, very religious young people, Jewish and Muslim and Christian, marry this way." I shook my head. "Amazing," I said. The next person that I interviewed was Bill, a guy in my business management class. "I meet a lot of women in dance clubs, at least I used to," he said. "The environment was exciting, and I used to go every weekend if possible to dance or talk or just listen to music." "That seems great," I said. I thought so too at first, he said a little sadly. But on the other hand, the music at these places was very loud. Many people drank, so they didn't talk. They shouted and didn't listen much. Both the men and the women got kind of aggressive. And it was so disorganized. So I've been trying speed dating instead of bars and clubs. What on earth is that? I asked, amazed. Well, you go to a nice place with tables and chairs. You get to meet a new person every 6 minutes. Then you list the people you want to see again. Does it work? No, it's much too fast for me. I don't move that quickly. And I'm not a speedy thinker or talker either. You know, you ought to talk to my brother Freddie. Here, you can get him by speed dialing my cell phone. Bill handed me the cellular telephone. I speed dialed Freddie. Oh, I do just about everything on the internet. You know, the World Wide Web, volunteered Freddie very quickly. You meet potential dates and girlfriends and mates on the web on your computer? I asked, not really so amazed anymore. Yeah, there are plenty of people to communicate with in cyberspace, Freddie began enthusiastically. With the most up-to-date technology, laptops and power notebooks and even camera and video phones, you can do it anywhere. At home, at work and school, at cafes, in the library. You can go into chat rooms and talk by typing. Slowing down, Freddie paused to think. On the other hand, I'm not such a good writer. It's hard, you know, to use those little computer devices. Anyway, well, who knows what is real there and what isn't? Who knows, like, who might be dangerous? He continued, starting to sound a little discouraged. It seemed he was talking more to himself than to me. I thanked him and we said goodbye so I could continue my search for the perfect way to find the perfect mate. The internet? Never, said Julie, a student who works part-time in the campus bookstore. I prefer to make new friends at places where people have the same interests. I met my boyfriend at the health club, for example. And it seems that the healthy atmosphere of the gym is continuing into the relationship that I have with him. We work out together, hang out at the pool and hot tubs, go to the health food juice bar, and so on. There are so many active, attractive people there. Maybe you should try it. That sounds wonderful, I said. Yes, Julie said. I guess so, but to be honest, there's one problem with this arrangement. What? I asked. The truth is that I really hate to exercise, so I don't want to go to the gym anymore. What's my boyfriend going to think when he finds this out? To be continued. Part 2. Meeting the Perfect Mate. Part 2. What is the best way to meet the perfect husband or wife? Computer dating services are the answer, said my friend Sarah, who lives down the hall from me in the dormitory. They provide a great way to meet people. The biggest advantage is that you have a lot in common with the people you meet through a computer. The computer can match you up with someone of your same intelligence, cultural background or religion, age, personality, values, and so on. If you want, You can meet someone who is famous, exciting, optimistic, healthy, polite, any characteristics that are important to you. You can match your preferences in lifestyle, food, nature, sports, movies, and everything else. And you can ask for a professor, a scientist, a computer specialist, an artist, or... Have you had many successful dates so far? I asked. To tell the truth, she said, not really. I think I made a big mistake when I filled out the application form. I didn't want to miss a wonderful guy because of an answer that was too specific, so I was careful to write very general answers. What do you mean? Well, there was a question about height. I said anyone between 3 feet 5 inches and 7 feet 5 inches. Then there was a question about recreation. I answered yes to 147 interests. From classic historical architecture to motorcycling. I wrote that I liked tennis, swimming, the beach, the mountains, the desert, health food, junk food, ethnic foods, eating out, cooking, staying home, traveling, the arts, TV comedies, quiz shows, crime dramas, family life, single life, and on and on and on. You know, I think that the computer got confused. It hasn't found a date for me since I sent in the application. And what about online video dating? Asked Sarah's roommate Sandra. Online video dating? I asked. How is that possible? Well, I hear that you film yourself and talk about yourself. You know, your background and your interests and things like that. Then you post your video online and people can view it, and you can view other people's videos and email the people you want to meet. I answered, more videos in my life. Well, you could place a personal ad, Sandra continued. In the newspaper? Sure, a friend of mine did that. He wanted to get married, so he figured it out by statistics. He decided that out of every 10 women, he liked one. And out of every 10 women he liked, he might fall in love with one. Therefore, to get married, he just needed to meet 100 women. Did it work? I asked. There was no answer. Last, I interviewed a guy in the cafeteria. His name was Felix. Supermarkets, he told me. You're kidding, I said. No, I'm serious. I meet a lot of potential dates over the frozen pizzas in the convenience food section. Also, it's easy to make small talk over the cabbage and broccoli in the produce section. We discuss chemicals and nutrition and food prices. Sometimes this leads to a very romantic date. I slowly shook my head. It is strange, very strange. I didn't respond because I didn't want to be impolite. That evening, I talked with my roommate Usha. You know, I said, I think maybe your parents and grandparents had a pretty good idea. An arranged marriage is beginning to seem more and more attractive to me.
Lesson 10, Sports.
Part 1.
The Ancient Olympics. In a world troubled by political conflict, the Olympic Games have symbolized peace and unity throughout their history. In the ancient Greek Olympics, youthful athletes honored the gods with demonstrations of their speed and coordination. Based on the highest ideals, the Olympic Games were offered in the spirit of peace, for the love of sport and honest, fair competition. Although the Olympics have changed over time, you might be surprised to learn that, according to historians, there are many similarities between the original Olympic Games and the modern ones. Here are two articles to compare the Olympic competitions of past millennia with the widely celebrated Olympic Games of the 21st century. The Olympic events, Athens, Greece, the 4th century AD. As the greatest of our national festivals comes to a close again, here are some of its highlights and history. Since 776 BC, our Summer Olympic Games have been held every 4 years at the sanctuary of our ruler Zeus on Mount Olympus. As usual, this year's games began with the promise of fairness by athletes and judges to Zeus. There was a ceremony before the statue and altar of the great god. There were contests for young boys. Participants and spectators met with old friends. There were speeches, poetry, tours, feasts, parades, and singing. Next came the competitive sports events, the pentathlon, 5 track and field events including the discus throw, javelin throw, the long jump, running, and wrestling, boxing, the 4-horse chariot race, horse racing, and an extreme combination of wrestling and boxing. Under a full moon, there were sacrifices to the king of the gods. On the 5th and final day, prizes were awarded, wreaths made of a special olive tree branch from the sanctuary. Some winners received prizes worth money. There were more feasts for and by the winners. Then the competitors and spectators went home, mostly on foot, through the mountains. Women in the Olympic Games. Most of the athletes at this year's events were young men, of course. Even so, unmarried girls competed in foot races at the festival of Hera, Zeus's wife. There were also spectators at the festival of Zeus. The owner of the winning chariot team and the trainer of the winning horse in the races were female too. On the other hand, married women were not allowed in the sanctuary of Zeus. They didn't want to be thrown off a cliff, so no one broke this rule. The politics of the Olympics. In my opinion, the most important achievement of the Olympic Games has been its peacefulness, not only at the Games, but in all of the Greek world. Of course, the actual events fill only 5 short days. Even so, during the 3 months before and after the competitions, there is an agreement to protect travelers, so there is usually no fighting between or among competing cities. Although there have been exceptions, in its long history of over a millennium, the ancient games have never been cancelled for political reasons. In general, even during the times of major wars, the games have contributed to the cause of peace for well over 1,000 years.